The call from beyond the threshold. You stand at the edge, my friend, the edge between what is known and what is waiting to be known, between the world you have constructed and the world that stirs beneath your waking life. This is the threshold, and beyond it lies the mystery of your own soul. Do not rush past this place. Do not turn away, for it is here, in the silence before the descent, that the self begins to call. Not the ego, not the mask you wear, but the deeper self, the totality of your being, the divine seed planted within you at the beginning of time. Most ignore this call. They distract themselves with ambition, with pleasure, with noise. But if you are listening now, something inside you has already begun to stir. This is no ordinary longing. It is not for more success or comfort. It is a longing for depth, for authenticity, for a life aligned with the soul rather than the world. I heard this call once when the world around me collapsed, when my break with Freud shattered my intellectual certainty, and I was cast into the abyss of the unknown. I called it my confrontation with the unconscious. It was not madness, it was transformation. In that time I withdrew from the outer world and began my descent, not to escape life, but to find its deeper meaning. This descent gave birth to the Red Book, a chronicle of visions, symbols, and dialogues with the soul. It was not written with the hand of science, but with the ink of the eternal. And now I invite you, not to repeat my journey, but to begin your own. The path will not be logical. It will not unfold like a staircase. It will twist and spiral. You will meet images, voices, shadows, aspects of your own psyche long forgotten. But remember, these are not hallucinations. They are living symbols from the collective unconscious. They are messengers of the self. You will be tempted to retreat. The ego fears the unknown. It clings to certainty, to reputation, to structure. But beyond this threshold, none of that matters. What matters is your willingness to surrender to something greater than your conscious mind. To awaken the self is to awaken the soul's true path. It is to remember that you are not alone, that within you lives every archetype, every myth, every longing ever known to humankind, the hero, the child, the sage, the wanderer, all live within you, and they wait for your courage to begin. The call is not loud. It whispers in dreams, in symbols, in moments of stillness when the world falls quiet. Listen. You are being summoned not to abandon the world, but to return to it transformed. For when you cross this threshold, you do not leave life behind. You enter it more fully. So step forward, not with answers, but with reverence. The call from beyond the threshold is the call to become whole, and your journey, dear soul, has only just begun. Unveiling the collective unconscious beneath the surface of your waking mind, beneath your memories, your desires, your fears, there is a deeper realm. Not fantasy, not hallucination, but a living, breathing reality of the soul. I have called it the collective unconscious. It is not yours alone. It does not belong to your personal history. It is the inheritance of the human race. A vast inner sea where the patterns of our ancestors still speak not in language, but in archetypes. You have met them before, though you may not have known their names. The wise old man who appears in your dreams, offering a single phrase that shifts your entire being. He is not just a symbol. He is a psychic reality, an eternal presence that lives within every soul. The Great Mother who nurtures, shelters, devours, and rebirths. She is not a memory of your childhood. She is older than time. She is the womb of myth, the guardian of both creation and destruction. These figures do not come from you, they come through you. And when you dream of the hero, the child, the trickster, the shadow, you are not inventing stories. You are being spoken to by the deepest layers of your psyche, by the self itself, using the only language it knows: symbol, image, feeling. Do not dismiss these encounters. Do not reduce them to analysis or superstition. They are your guides. They have emerged now, at this point in your journey, because you are ready to listen. The collective unconscious is not a theory. It is a territory, and in my own descent I walked its shores. Through visions, through dreams, through the chaos of my own red book, I came to know that behind every personal crisis is an archetypal drama playing out. You are not alone in your suffering. You are not the first to wander in the dark. Every soul who has ever awakened has walked this same inner terrain, the call, the descent, the ordeal, the integration. These are not random events, they are patterns of the psyche, and when you begin to see your life as part of this greater pattern, you awaken to its deeper meaning. You are no longer just surviving, you are remembering. The collective unconscious is not chaos. It is order too vast for the ego to comprehend, but it will guide you if you allow it. It will not speak in commands, but in whispers, in the image that returns to your dreams, in the song that makes you weep, in the symbol that appears again and again until you finally ask, "Why does this matter to me?" That question, that moment of inner listening, is the beginning of your transformation, for in listening to the archetypes you listen to your soul, and in honoring them you begin the sacred work of individuation, the slow, beautiful, painful process of becoming who you truly are. So I ask you now, what patterns have been calling to you? What images have visited you in silence? What ancient voices have you tried to ignore? Go toward them with reverence, with humility, with wonder. For in their presence you are no longer just a person, you are a soul awakening to its own eternal story. The shadow as the key, do not turn away from it. The part of you that shivers in shame, that rages in silence, that hides behind smiles and success, this is your shadow. And though it may frighten you, though it may wear the face of failure, rage, or weakness, I tell you this, within the shadow lies the key to your deepest awakening. Most flee from this truth. They strive to be only light, only good, only rational. They deny the chaos within, and in doing so they divide their soul. But what is repressed does not die. It waits, and it returns, not gently, but with force, in projections, in addictions, in suffering that seems without cause. I have seen it again and again, in patients who believed themselves kind but carried secret cruelty, in those who seemed calm yet trembled with unspoken rage. And I have known it in myself in the terrible silence after my break with Freud, in the solitude of Bollingen Tower, where I finally dared to meet what I had hidden. The shadow is not evil, it is simply what you have not yet claimed. The denied desire, the forgotten dream, the vulnerability you disowned to survive. To face it is not to be overcome, but to become whole. You cannot ascend to the heights of the superconscious without first descending into your personal underworld. For the light you seek is forged in the darkness you avoid. This is the sacred paradox. Your higher self waits for you not in the heavens, but in the cave of your rejected self. And it is there in that inward descent, in that honest encounter with fear, shame, envy, lust, grief, that the real transformation begins. Do not analyze the shadow from a distance. You must feel it. Enter its silence, dialogue with it. Ask, what part of me do you represent? What are you here to teach me? Do not seek to conquer the shadow, but to integrate it, for only then can your soul become whole. Only then does your power become rooted, not performative, your love honest, not idealized, your presence genuine, not masked. In the mirror of the shadow you see who you truly are and who you might yet become. But this requires courage, not the courage to fight, but the courage to see. In Bollingen, my stone tower on the edge of the lake, I carved into the walls not just images of divinity, but symbols of darkness, of death, of transformation. I did not hide from the shadow, I lived beside it, I listened to it, and in doing so I found the path to the self. So I say this to you now, with all the weight of experience, the shadow is not your enemy. It is the guardian at the gate. Face it and you pass through, flee it and you remain forever fragmented. The journey into light always begins in darkness. Walk in with honesty, with humility, and above all with the quiet knowing that wholeness lives on the other side. The art of active imagination, there is a door not in the world outside, but within, and through this door the figures of your soul await you, not as abstractions, not as fantasies, but as living presences within the deep psyche. This is the art of active imagination, not a method of escape, but a sacred practice of descent, a dialogue between the conscious ego and the figures of the superconscious, those eternal forms, the archetypes, which guide, challenge, and awaken the self. I discovered this practice not in textbooks, but in crisis. After my break with Freud, I stood upon a precipice between madness and meaning. It was in that chasm that I first surrendered to the unconscious, allowing the images within me to speak. Not as metaphor, but as beings. The Red Book is the fruit of that surrender, a record of visions, of voices, of sacred conversation. I did not invent them. I listened in active imagination. You do not analyze the image. You meet it, you close your eyes, you quiet the outer world, you allow the unconscious to bring forth a symbol, a figure, a landscape. It may begin as a dream fragment, a woman in red, a tower in fog, a lion that speaks. You do not control it, you respond to it. You ask, who are you? What do you want from me? What must I learn from you? And then you listen. You may paint what you see, write what you hear, speak aloud the dialogue between your ego and the other. This is not fantasy, it is not fiction, it is imagination in its highest form, a bridge between the visible and the invisible, between the personal and the eternal. The figures you meet are not merely parts of you. They are archetypal presences, carriers of intelligence and energy beyond your conscious mind. I walked with Fileman, a wise old man who emerged from within and became my inner teacher. He taught me truths that no book could offer. He was not me, yet he was within me. Through active imagination I encountered my inner feminine, my shadow, my soul. I faced temptation, insight, transformation, and you will too, but you must practice with reverence. The unconscious is not a toy, it is a living mystery. You must approach it not with arrogance, but with openness. You are not the master here, you are the guest. What emerges will sometimes frighten you, sometimes enchant you, but always, if you are honest, it will change you. This is not therapy, this is initiation. Through active imagination, you bring unconscious content into conscious life. You integrate what has been exiled. You transform psychic potential into lived wisdom. And as you continue, you begin to notice something miraculous. The inner world responds, dreams shift, synchronicities arise. Your outer life bends subtly to the symbols that live within. You are no longer a passive subject of fate. You become a co-creator of your own unfolding, and in time you discover the figures you feared were fragments of your forgotten self, and the wisdom they offer was always your own waiting in the dark to be remembered. The mandala as a gateway, there is a circle that contains the cosmos, a shape that is ancient, universal, and sacred, the mandala. It appears in dreams, in sand paintings, in temples and cathedrals, and sometimes in the quiet sketches of a soul seeking wholeness. I first encountered the mandala not in Tibet or in sacred texts, but in my own spontaneous drawings during a time of great inner turmoil. Day after day, I found myself tracing circles, geometric patterns, spirals, centers encased in symmetry. At first I did not understand, but then I saw these were not art, they were maps of the psyche, messages from the self. The mandala is more than a symbol. It is an archetype of order, a mirror of the soul's deepest structure, a sacred geometry that arises when chaos begins to resolve itself. When a person is fractured, confused, or lost in the descent, the unconscious may respond by producing this image of centeredness, of totality. The mandala does not come from the ego, it emerges from the self. It is a circle that holds the opposites light and dark, male and female, spirit and body within a harmonious whole. To draw a mandala is to participate in the ancient ritual of psychic integration. You are not merely creating an image, you are invoking a sacred presence. In many cultures, the mandala is a spiritual tool, a meditation, a portal, a medicine, but I discovered it also as a psychological necessity. During times of deep transformation, when the ego dissolves, when the old self is dying, the mandala may arise to hold you. It is the container of the infinite, a symbol that says there is order beneath the chaos. There is a center within the storm, and if you are willing to trust it, to let the unconscious guide your hand, you may come into contact with something greater than you, yet not separate from you, something divine. I urge you now, create your own, not with perfection, but with presence. Begin with a circle. Let the center emerge. Let your hand move without judgment. Let the colors, the shapes, the balance reflect what lives in your soul. Do not interpret it too soon. Live with it, dream with it. You may be surprised how much of you it reveals. The mandala is the gateway to the superconscious because it reflects the wholeness that lies beyond the divided mind. It is a language older than thought, a code the self uses to remind you who you are beneath the noise. When you feel lost, draw the circle. When your life fractures, draw the circle. When you feel the call of something larger, draw the circle. In that space, you may meet the eternal. You may feel the self not as a concept, but as a radiant center pulsing at the heart of your being, and you may come to see that you are not outside the pattern. You are the pattern, you are the circle, you are the center, you are the infinite becoming visible one sacred line at a time. Synchronicity and the superconscious flow. There are moments, quiet, radiant, when time seems to tremble, and the veil between your inner world and the outer dissolves. You think of someone and they call. A symbol in your dream appears the next morning in a stranger's words. You stumble upon a book and it speaks the very truth your soul had been seeking. Is it chance? Is it accident? No, it is synchronicity, a word I gave to those meaningful coincidences that defy causality, yet strike the soul with undeniable resonance. Synchronicity is the language of the superconscious, that deeper intelligence which unites psyche and cosmos, self and universe. You see, there are two ways events may align, through cause or through meaning. Cause belongs to science, it asks, what made this happen? But meaning belongs to the soul, it asks, why did this happen now? What am I being shown? I first began to notice synchronicity not in theory, but in experience. One patient spoke of a dream in which she received a golden scarab. As she spoke, a gentle tapping came at the window behind me. I turned, and there, against all odds, was a scarab beetle, out of season, out of place, but perfectly in time. That moment pierced through her defenses. It bypassed reason. The unconscious had answered. Synchronicity is the bridge between the inner transformation and the outer unfolding. It reveals that the psyche is not sealed in the skull. It is a participant in the greater reality. It moves in rhythm with the world. These moments do not come when you are distracted or numb. They come when you are open in grief, in wonder, in transition, when the ego loosens its grip and something deeper begins to lead. The superconscious is not a place. It is a field of meaning, a living intelligence that responds not to your thoughts, but to your alignment. When you are walking toward the self, when your inner journey begins to reflect truth, the world will often reflect it back through symbols, meetings, accidents that are not accidents. Do not dismiss these signs. Do not analyze them to death. Notice, trust, respond. A synchronistic moment is like a whisper from the divine. It won't scream, it won't prove itself, it will shimmer, subtle, sacred. It will nudge you to remember you are being guided not by logic alone, but by something far older, far wiser. I believe synchronicity is most common during times of transformation. It often signals that you are on the path of individuation, that the inner and outer worlds have begun to harmonize. But beware, synchronicity is not control. You do not summon it, you receive it. You must be humble, attentive like a dreamer waking mid-dream, half in this world, half in another. So when a symbol repeats, when a door opens unexpectedly, when life seems to wink at you, pause. Listen, the self may be speaking, and the world, yes, even the physical world, may be dancing in rhythm with your soul's unfolding. This is not magic, this is meaning, and it is sacred. The anima and animus as guides within each of us, whether man or woman, There dwells a sacred presence, a contrasexual soul image that points toward the superconscious self. I called them the anima and animus, the anima, the inner feminine in man, the animus, the inner masculine in woman. They are not simply traits nor social roles dressed in psychological terms. They are archetypes, eternal patterns of soul, carriers of emotion, insight, reason, and mystery. In every man's depths the anima breathes. She appears in dreams, in visions, as the maiden, the seductress, the mother, the wise woman. She is beauty and chaos, intuition and emotion. She is the soul's whisper. To ignore her is to become spiritually dry, trapped in logic, divorced from feeling. But to engage her, to court her voice, her moods, her wisdom, is to awaken the bridge to the unconscious, and through it, to the divine. Likewise, in every woman the animus stirs. He emerges as the warrior, the critic, the sage, the guide. He is strength, discipline, clarity, and reason. When ignored, he may become a tyrant, a voice of doubt, of cold judgment. But when honored, he becomes a pillar of inner truth. Both the anima and animus can mislead, appearing in distorted forms, projected onto lovers, teachers, enemies. When unconscious, they wreak havoc, entangling you in illusions of ideal love or absolute certainty. But when made conscious, they transform. The anima becomes the guide to the depths of feeling, the inspirer of dreams, the oracle of the unconscious. She leads the man inward to meet his shadow, his soul, his self. The animus becomes the voice of courage, the guardian of inner direction, the one who helps the woman say, "I will." Together they form the sacred marriage within, the hieros gamos, and this union, this integration of masculine and feminine is the key to psychic balance. For the superconscious is not reached through one-sidedness, but through wholeness. We live in a world fractured by opposites: reason against feeling, activity against receptivity, masculine against feminine. But the soul holds both, and when we honor both, we begin to move beyond duality. We begin to ascend, not away from life, but more deeply into it. In my own journey, I met these inner figures. They spoke to me in visions. They challenged me, loved me, betrayed me, transformed me. They were not me, yet they lived within me. To know your anima or animus is to reclaim the lost parts of your soul, those you projected onto others, those you feared, those you silenced. And once reclaimed, they guide you toward the greater self. This is no fantasy, it is inner alchemy, it is the soul's way of restoring its own symmetry. So I urge you, if you are a man, listen to your inner woman. She is not weakness, she is wisdom. If you are a woman, listen to your inner man. He is not dominance, he is direction. Together they will walk you to the gates of the superconscious, and there balanced, whole, radiant, you will glimpse the self in its eternal and androgynous light. The silence of contemplation the superconscious does not shout. It arrives gently like mist over water, like breath beneath the breath. To know it, you must first withdraw from the world's clamor. You must return to the sacred interior where no noise survives, only soul. At Bollingen I found this stillness, not as luxury, but as necessity. There, on the shores of the lake, without electricity, without distraction, I touched the silence that the psyche requires to hear its deepest voice. The self, that divine spark within, does not emerge through noise or force. It awakens in stillness, in the quiet spaces between thought and thought. This is contemplation, not thinking, not doing, but being. To sit, to breathe, to witness your inner world as it rises and falls like a tide. In this sacred state, the unconscious begins to speak. Symbols appear, emotions rise like smoke. Memories long buried ask to be seen. You must not resist, you must not interpret too quickly, you must only allow. Contemplation is not escape, it is engagement at the soul's pace. The ego, frantic and proud, will rebel. It will cry out for stimulation, for tasks, for identity. Let it. Eventually, in the silence, it too will soften, and beneath its collapse you will find the self waiting. In this space, time dissolves. You are no longer a personality, but a vessel. You do not think the thought, you receive it. This is where the superconscious stirs in that sacred gap between effort and surrender. So I ask you, create your Bollingen. It may be a room, a forest, a quiet hour before dawn. Enter it not with expectation, but with reverence. Contemplation is not about control. It is about receptivity. The self does not need to be summoned, only welcomed, and in that welcome a deeper voice will begin to speak not with words, but with knowing. Integrating the divine self to meet the self is not a fantasy. It is a psychic event of cosmic significance. In my work, Aeon, I wrote of the self as the central archetype of order, a mandala of divine wholeness that lives beyond the ego. It is not the best version of you. It is not your personality perfected. It is the union of opposites, the shadow and the light, the anima and the animus, the known and the unknowable. To activate the superconscious is to meet this self, not as an idea, but as an overwhelming presence, and it is not easy. It shatters. The encounter dissolves identity, undoes narratives, requires sacrifice. You must let die who you thought you were to become who you truly are. This is the task of integration, not to transcend the psyche, but to unite its fragments, to welcome the wounded child, to honor the shadow, to accept the sacred feminine and masculine within you, and to allow them to dance, to speak, to merge. Integration does not mean perfection. It means wholeness. It means you no longer cast out parts of yourself, but hold them in communion. And in that communion a radiance emerges, a peace that the world cannot give, because it is not of the world. The self is the divine mirror, and when you behold it, you do not become God, you become real, you begin to live not from ego, but from essence. This is the second birth, not of body, but of soul, and it is here, finally, that you return to the world, not as a seeker, but as one who has found. Living the superconscious life, the journey does not end with the vision, it begins with it. To touch the self is sacred, but to live from the self, that is the true work. What good is inner knowledge if it does not shape your days? The superconscious is not an escape from the human experience, it is a deepening of it. When you live from that center, your actions become aligned, your words carry weight, your silence heals. You no longer chase meaning, you embody it. You bring stillness into movement, you bring insight into relationship, you bring the eternal into the everyday. At Bollingen, I lived not as a philosopher, but as a man made simple. I carved stone, I cooked by fire. I walked among trees, and in these humble acts I lived what I had seen in dreams. The superconscious life is not dramatic, it is luminous, it is quietly powerful. You do not speak of the self often, you speak from it. This is individuation fully lived, not in theory, but in breath, in gesture, in gaze. To live this way is to become a vessel for the sacred, not to preach, but to be. Your very presence becomes medicine. So now, as you return from this inner odyssey, do not try to explain it. Live it. Let the divine rhythm guide your steps. Let silence deepen your listening. Let wholeness shape your choices. The superconscious is not a place. It is a state, it is a flame within, eternally burning. You are no longer who you were. You are who you were meant to be, and this is when your real life begins.